So for the past week, I've been reading the rules of Zombicide Chronicles. I've come up with some rules that I want to modify and change to make this a better solo experience. So let's get into it.
Welcome to Solitary RPG.
When I am working with a role playing game that is not designed for solo experience, I sometimes will adjust the rules and make modifications to the mechanics of the game just to help facilitate a better solo experience. And Zombicide does require some changes to the mechanics and the rules so that I can have that better solo experience. And what we're going to do in this video is just kind of walk through some of those changes that I made to this game. If you've watched my first video, I've kind of highlighted some areas of concern I had with the rules, and those are going to be addressed in this video. But before we get into that, let's talk about character creation. So I went through the core rulebook and followed the steps for creating my character. Created my character's name is Bastine, and his occupation prior to the outbreak, he was an animal control officer. His habit is he smokes cigars, and that actually becomes a mechanic in the game because it is one of the things you can do to help recover, especially from stress, is doing one of your habits. And so I thought that was kind of cool. Looks, I'm old and grumpy. So just imagine an old grumpy person. All of my skills came from following the archetype from the rulebook. I am playing Reno, the veteran archetype, and that is how I got all of my skills for tactician, point blank, blitz, and bullseye. And bullseye was the one skill that will actually help me when it comes to fighting abominations, because if you unlock this skill, you will get a +1 to your damage for ranged weapons. So that's one of the things that really kind of drew me to this character. On the back of my character sheet, I listed out all of the different skills and how they are used in gameplay. And then from here, I also took my favorite proficiency, which is combat, and my favorite attribute, which is muscles. And I circled those on my character sheet. Coming up with your numbers, that is all laid out in the instructions on page 29. Basically, you take your 3 attributes. One of them gets 3, so I gave it to muscles since that is my favorite. One gets 2, which I gave it to grit because it kind of fit the character profile. And brains, I gave myself 1. And then on proficiencies here, 2 of them get 3, so I gave myself 3 in athletics and combat. 3 of them get 2, which I gave attitude, perception, and survival 2, and 1 of them gets 1, which is background. And then through the actions here, you underline 3 of them. Those will be your 3 favorite actions, which will give you a bonus. And this is how you create your dice pool. So let's say I'm shooting. Combat gives me 3 dice. Brains give me 1 dice because shooting is one of my favorite. I get another dice. This is what creates my dice pool. I will say though, for shooting though, you sometimes get bonus dice depending on which weapon you're using. So that might be added in, but the basics, that's how you create your dice pool. And then stress and hit points are just numbers drawn from your attributes and your proficiencies. Then on the back, I went through and did the roll up of the character's backstory. I did run into a challenge here where I had to kind of change some of my results simply because one of my results said I had no significant other in my life, and then one of the other results said I took pictures of my significant other. So not all the charts will completely flow smoothly, or you just have to kind of broaden your thinking when you get the results. I just re-rolled. I'm okay with that. But yeah, that was character creation. Grabbed myself some weapons and I was done. Doesn't take very long. But as far as the rules for character creation go, I did modify one thing. I am starting out with adrenaline. So, adrenaline is an important part of the game because as you go up in adrenaline, you start unlocking these additional skills and getting more skills as you level up. And this is important because these are important skills and you want to uh, unlock those as much as possible. Also, your adrenaline can be used to reduce stress during the gameplay. So I figured a simple rule without going too far out of the norm would be to roll 2d6 and start with that much adrenaline. And it's not rule breaking, it's just kind of giving me that resource that I can manage during gameplay because I'm not going to run 4 characters. Probably only going to run 2 because I think that is a good manageable amount of characters to run in a solo game. So I figured I'd start out with a little bit of adrenaline. The one rule that you need to keep in mind with adrenaline, if you choose to do this, is you can only spend adrenaline in the current level that you are at. So these all break down into different levels. This is supposed to be in color. I printed in black and white. I didn't really feel the need to print this in color. But currently I have 6. So I can spend these 6 adrenaline points to reduce my stress during gameplay. But as soon as I go into the next level and I unlock the second skill, which is point blank, I can't spend adrenaline taking me below 6. So I have to stay within the level that my character is at as they unlock the different skills. It's a cool mechanic. That way, people aren't abusing the stress because stress is gained by manipulating dice to successes, and you don't want someone to be able to abuse that. So you have to stay within your categories. I like that rule, but I am starting out with a little bit more adrenaline. So that was one of the changes, and I don't think it was that much of a deal breaker. The next change I made with the game has to do with the zombies moving on the board or just moving in general for gameplay. As I talked about in the previous video, that you will start combat with an opening shot. You'll get a shot on the zombies, and then the zombies will be in close combat range. There's no real movement in this game. To me, that felt a little flat and more. I just wasn't that thrilled with it. So I've been messing around with a concept dealing with the speed of the zombies. And let me show you what I came up with. So let's say we have 2 PCs, and for the PCs, we will just make them the Molotov cocktails. So we have 2 player characters. And then let's say we have some zombies. Let's say we have 2 walkers, 1 runner, and 1 fatty. Runners move at a speed of 3, walkers move at a speed of 2, and fatties move at a speed of 1. So they all move at a different speed. And what I'm going to do for my games, because I'm not running a full party, I'm running 1 or 2 characters, is after the opening shot and following the rules for targeting priority, which means my opening shots have to go to the biggest target, which would be the fatty in this case. Then the zombies are going to move according to the range band and their speed. So if we're at range 3, we do our opening shot. Let's say we don't kill anything. Well, the runners can have a speed of 3, so they can get up into close combat. The walkers do not. They have a speed of 2, so they're going to be at short range. And the fatty can only move 1, so it's going to be at medium range. This is just going to give me an opportunity as a player to try to resolve some of the combats before it leads to everyone being up close and personal and we're all in close combat. And once the opening round is done and I've readjusted the range bands for the zombies, If any are in close combat, they'll choose whoever they're in close combat with. If they're both locked in close combat, then that's that. But if only one is, the other PC can still shoot. They'll just shoot whatever's closest to them, and then everything will just keep moving up. So this will give me an opportunity, especially if I get an abomination, to try to reduce the number of combatants before the abomination comes into close combat and starts wiping out my PCs. That is something I am going to do to create some sort of movement in the game, giving my PCs some kind of opportunities to work out the problem before we're just all stuck in close combat and everyone just gets slaughtered and turned into zombie breakfast. The other thing I'm going to do is I've created my own range bands that I think are more appropriate for the game, especially playing solo, because I don't mind my characters getting into a combat, especially with zombies, right away, but I do want them to have some sort of opportunities, and that's something that I always look for in my games is, do I have an opportunity to resolve this problem before it leads to combat? So I've added two more range bands. When a horde is found or zombies are found, I'm going to roll a d6. Based on what we roll is going to create the range band. So on a roll of 1, they're going to be at range band 1. So they're going to be able to move right into close combat because close combat is range band 0. But if they get a 1, they're at short range. If they get a 2, they're at medium range. If they get a 3, they're at long range. If you get a 4, they're at very long range. If you roll a 5, that's going to be more of a narrative result, which is you see something moving off in the distance, but you don't know what it is. Like you see movement, but that could be another survivor, or that could be maybe zombies. You don't know. So it's just to say there's something moving ahead to give my PC some kind of an opportunity to do something, prepare for something, and some more story. And if I roll the 6, which is the big Molotov cocktail, that's going to be you hear something off in the distance. And you can roll or ask an oracle about what that could possibly be. But that's what I want to use 6 for, is you hear something, so maybe you want to deviate and go a different direction, or you want to investigate and go see what the noise is, but you're going to use precaution, make some sneak rolls, and see if you sneak around and you're able to avoid being seen. You know, just more narrative information, and I like that for a solo game to add a little bit more to the story. The last thing I changed with the rules focus around creating the zombie horde. In the core rulebook, there's a heavy focus on the game having more than one or two player characters because the number of walkers generated is based on how many player characters you have. Then you would roll a d6, add your threat level for the location you're at, and that might generate runners, fatties, or abominations. And I really didn't like how this was working with the low number of PCs that I'm going to be running, so I created my own system for creating a zombie horde. And I want to stick with the mechanics of the game. So 6s and 1s are successes and failures in this game. So the chart I came up with is you're going to roll all of the white d6s to create your zombie horde. And for every 6 and 1 that you generate, that will create a walker. And then every pair of zombie heads or Molotov cocktails will create a runner. Zombie heads will create a fatty. In any 4 of a kind that you roll, so if you roll 4 zombie heads or 4 Molotov cocktails, you create an abomination. And all of these stack. So if I was to roll this, which I hope I never do, first this would generate 6 walkers, 1 runner, 2 fatties, and 1 abomination. So all the results are going to stack on top of each other, really creating a horde or the potential of a horde. So I just thought this was easier and it creates a little bit more drama, a little bit more of that overwhelmness that you might feel when I was using the rules in the game. Just it just kind of fell flat because walkers are just automatically generated by the number of survivors, and then you roll, add your threat level, and that might generate a runner, a fatty, or an abomination. Um, this just felt better to me, and I get to roll a bunch of dice, and I like that because sometimes the dice can be my friend, and maybe I only get one little stray walker running down the parkway at Disneyland, and I can take care of that. Or I may just roll a bunch of results and have all kinds of craziness going on where I need to have my PCs get out. So I think it's just going to create a little bit better narrative stories, especially since I changed the rules with the range bands and movement. It's going to give me some flexibility so that my PCs at least have a chance and we can do some other things. So, those are all the rules that I have changed. And what I did is I wrote them all out in my journal. And then I created my own charts in the back, kind of like my own GM screen for the rules that I'm going to be using. The other aspect that I am creating for this game is my Oracle. So when I was newer into solo gaming, I was always looking for new oracles and reading up about the latest and greatest oracle for whatever game. And over the years, I've kind of gotten to the point I just create my own oracles for the games that I'm playing because I want the oracle to match the dice mechanics for the game that I'm actually playing. What I've created is something that follows the same concept as creating a zombie horde, where you're going to roll all of the d6s, and what you're looking for are sixes or Molotov cocktails and zombie heads, which are ones. And when you roll your dice, if you get 1, 6, you get a yes result. If you get 2, you get a yes and. If you get 3, you get a yes and result. If you roll zombie heads, the same goes on the other side. If you roll one zombie head, it's a no, no and. Once you roll, zombie heads will also take away successes. So if I was to roll something like this, the first zombie head would take away one success, the second one would take away the second success, down to just one success. That's as low as the zombie heads can take it. I just felt this was more representative of the game because zombie heads are bad. They cause, one of the rule mechanics is if you roll more zombie heads than successes, it causes trouble, kind of adds in a complication. So I wanted to kind of keep that spirit of that in the Oracle. So that's how I'm using the zombie heads. And it takes it down to one success. Results like this: one success and one zombie head would be a yes, but. And if you have two zombie heads and one success, this is going to be a no, but. But that's what I created for my Oracle. It's pretty straightforward. Is the door locked? No, because a zombie head is a no result. And you get something like, oh, here's a yes and result. This just really felt good to me. This is a yes, but as an Oracle, sticking with the theme of the dice mechanics for the game, keeping everything together. So that's what I've created. Now I'm ready to start playing the game. And the next step is to kind of just sit down and write my opening scene. How did I get here? What am I doing here? Where's everything going? Who's with me? Who's not with me? And to me, an opening scene is important because it's going to set the tone for the story that I'm telling and the game that I'm playing. So I'll spend a little bit of time with that. And it's not going to be long and lengthy. It's just going to be a short little paragraph, but that's going to give me a lot of opportunities to do some different things. So once I get that done, we'll come back and I'll share that with you and we'll start rolling some dice. So thank you very much.